Alright, we will continue our deep dive into content management, and this will be even more complicated. No, seriously, we'll see some more complicated stuff right now, and this will be about taxonomies, which is, again, not surprisingly, a menu item on the admin. What are taxonomies and why is it useful? Well, if you have more than a very trivial amount of content, you may want to categorize them. And the taxonomies module and the taxonomies feature is a tool for that. So we have just briefly taken a glimpse at tags when we have tried blogs and created blog posts. Tags are also kind of taxonomy, taxonomification, if that is a word. But taxonomy is kind of a better way of that, or rather a more complex way or a more flexible way of that. So let's pretend that we want to categorize student. So we create a taxonomy for that. But first we also would need some content type to demonstrate all this. So I will just quickly create one very briefly. So we will store students in the system, and that means that I will create a student content type. It's under the content definition menu item, as we have seen before. Everything is just student. We won't do much with this content type. Let's keep it super simple. I will just add the title part, which will contain, well, the student's name. By the way, when we create a content type from the admin, the common part will be automatically added. So the common part is that part, but we have also seen that contains the creation date and the owner. That's pretty much needed for every user editable, admin editable content type, so it's automatically added in the background. So I have the title part here and gonna hit save. Now we have the brand new student content type listed here as well, so we can create student content items. As you can see, by default it's all four, so creatable, listable, draftable and securable as well. There are no fields, the common part was added as mentioned, and the title part I just added. But before creating students, let's go back to taxonomies and prepare the taxonomification or the categorization of students. I will add a taxonomy here, and the taxonomy viewer will contain what the student majors in, if that is a correct expression for that. So let's call it major. Not the military rank, but the course of studies you take. And in that major, we will add some terms. So the basic structure and the basic usage of taxonomies is that first you create a taxonomy, which will be the container of terms. And those terms will be the actual categories that you add to content items. And not just that, but terms can be hierarchical, so there can be top terms and then below them leaf terms. But for now, let's keep it a bit simpler. Let's add a term, and this term will be, well, let's call it computer science. That seems more fancy. No, obviously this is the most important, so I will add this first. And you may have noticed that here again we have title and permalink, so surely terms are also content items. And jolly, you were right. Terms are also content items, just as taxonomies. So again, they can be freely modified. I will save this term, computer science, and I will also add something. And when adding this term, you can see that we can also select a parent term. So this is the hierarchy I mentioned. We could add this term under the computer science term if we would want to, but let's keep this taxonomy flat I will just add it to the root. This should be some other major. Well, let's have some real major again, like particle physics. I'm not sure whether this is an actual major anywhere like that, but let's save this. And now we have two terms in this taxonomy. The good thing is that now we can use these terms and attach them to content items. But first there is some gluing we need to do. We need to configure, well, the student content type to be able to receive those terms. So what we need to do is, again, go back to content definition and go to the student content type. And here, well, we could add a field or a part. Since I mentioned that you can add multiple fields to content type, it will be probably under fields, because, well, we can have multiple taxonomies, and surely we want to be able to use multiple taxonomies on the same content type as well. So, for example, we could add the minor taxonomy as well, and also use that for all students. And indeed, under fields we have something, and that something is taxonomy field. So if we select taxonomy field and add the taxonomy field, we will be able to select taxonomy terms. Let's call this taxonomy field major as well, just as the taxonomy. Let's hit save. And once we are back to the content type editor, under the taxonomy fields configuration, we can see that here we can select the taxonomy, which will be the only one. And I mentioned the ability to use or to build hierarchical taxonomies. This is also reflected here. You can see that we can restrict which elements can be selected to only the lower level, the leaf terms. Well, there are various configuration options. Again, one cool thing is that you can also enable autocomplete and the creation of new terms. If you tick both of these options, then you basically get tags. Otherwise, if just autocomplete is enabled, you will be able to add terms with a text box. In this case, it's probably better to have a simple list of terms, because we just have a few of them. And since, well, at least here in Hungary, you can theoretically major in multiple majors if you are enlisted at multiple, well, departments, probably. We won't allow only one term to be selected, so we will just leave everything else on default. And save the content type. So let's create some students. And if we click new student here, you can see that, well, it has a title and it has the major taxonomy terms listed here. So that's how we can do some categorization. So let's add some students. This will be John Doe, for example. He will learn computer science. I'm not good with fake English names, so the next one will be Jane Doe. Oops. And she will major in particle physics. And let's add Jack Doe. It's all a big family. And he will major in both of these. And I will publish this as well. Again, remember that the content type by default is draftable, so that's why you have the save as well as the publish now buttons here. Now, all of these were just for the admin side, so we haven't used taxonomies yet at all. But we can easily use them. Actually, everything is done. We just need to take a look at it from the outside. And if you go back to taxonomies, and click major. Well, not major, but rather edit. Sorry. We see that it already has an author out, has an alias generated. It has a URL. So if we click view here, or would open the /major URL, we get to the major taxonomies page. And here all the terms are listed: computer science and particle physics. And these are also links. So if we click computer science, guess what will happen? Well, all the students who have computer science, the computer science term selected will be listed. Not too much surprise here. This is probably something we would have expected. So Joan and Jack are also listed here. And if we go to particle physics, then Jack and Jane are listed. So that's how you can very quickly, very simply create a wide variety of categorization. Again, everything just from the admin, and everything else, everything here is content item, are content items too.